Just a note to any listeners out there, we had to synchronize our recordings because Craig decided to just not be cooperative today because apparently too many people are using Discord, so that's the thing. All right, here we go.
Dorkos in Weirdoz.
Welcome to the Dorkos and Weirdoz podcast, the show where we talk to creatively strange and nerdy people. My name is Kai Jordan. I'm your host, and today my special guest is a director, writer, and voice actor, editor as well. Someone I've had the pleasure of being introduced to through my good friend Martin. Would you like to introduce yourself, special guest?
Yes. I am Gray Mind, aka Greg Katerman. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here. I edit, I do the voices, I direct when I'm given the lovely opportunity, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
All right, cool. So like with the and let's get first thing I want to dig into is your editing stuff, like regards to just editing work. Like when I was first digging into your research, my friend Martin like directed me to a few videos that you worked on. One of them was a video essay by Plague of Gripes. It was this one about griping about villains, and
Yeah.
with regards to that process, because I've worked on like long-term video essays before where they usually go up to like 30 minutes, and there's always this certain process where you collect footage and stuff like that. How would you describe your process, like working with another YouTuber? Did they contact you? Did you go to them? And what's the process to work between to get stuff approved? How does that go?
So the way that we started working together was basically he put out a call on his Twitter. He was looking for an editor to help him with making some projects. I had done some video essays and similar kinds of projects before in college, so I had some, and I've done other editing processes before for like televised programs and for a couple commercials and stuff. So I was like, hey, I could most definitely do that. Shot him my email. He got back to me and said, hey, this all sounds great. You seem pretty qualified. So how about the way that our working relationship goes is he sends me a script and a basic gist of whatever ideas he has for the visuals. But generally, Plague is incredibly hands off. He's very hands off. He gives me the script. He gives me the voiceover files broken up into parts, and he lets me go to town visually. He lets me have free reign, and I always come back to. Basically, I come back to him every so many days or weeks, depending on how long the project takes. Typically, his videos being such long form videos, they take about, let's say, like a month or two to work through. But it's a back and forth process, basically, of he just tells me, here's the audio, here's the script, here's my basic ideas, but anything else you want to do for visuals, go for it. And it's a back and forth, like, what do you think about this? Oh, I think that's great. Until eventually I work my way up to the final product. He gives me notes on the final revision, and we do a couple revisions until he's happy with it. It's really freeing. Out of anyone I've ever done editing projects with or for, Plague has been easily the most open and generous as far as my creative freedom for putting things together. It's fantastic.
All right. And in regards to, like, I know that another thing with video essays, like when you're using clips of stuff, some companies tend to be very protective of their footage. Do you ever run into issues like where a video gets claimed by someone because you used 5 seconds of poopity poop and they didn't like that?
Oh yeah, that's something to keep in mind constantly when putting stuff up on YouTube, especially projects I put up before in the past. I had a prior YouTube channel where I actually had some fan dub projects that I did, and another video essay project that I'd done previously by myself. And I encountered the lovely copyright bots then too. So to work around that, what I basically do is I keep my clips, like the villains video that you mentioned, I kept my clips roughly around 11 to 13 seconds. I keep them pretty brief depending on what I'm showing, especially the nature of that video wherein I'm showing like film footage and film clips and whatnot. That stuff will get picked up real quick. Or even another video I did for Plague, The Many Masks of Gohan, a Dragon Ball centric video about Gohan. And that one, we were really concerned about Toei, who had hit him before for
Yeah.
videos about that, like about TN and whatnot. So that was another one where we to work around that there, I asked for his he has a frame that he drew up and illustrated for it, so that helps with minimizing the footage that the bots scan over for it as well. I mirror footage when I can, but generally my go-to strategy that seems to have worked out so much so far is I watch the timing of the clips very specifically. I break them up whenever I can with overlays, images, text. I mirror them if I have a consistent issue, but I generally don't want to do that too much because it can sometimes, if people are familiar with it, they can get a little disoriented and be like, what happened there? And yeah, it's a timing issue that something I've noticed. It's bizarre, but I keep them below like roughly 13 seconds for clips, and keeping that pretty consistent, we generally haven't been getting hit unless it's like a manual claim, which even then we haven't had those issues with it. Keeping it around that time has kept us pretty free and clear from the copyright bots and whatnot and the strikes. I also use a secondary channel as well where I do test uploads sometimes for the revisions just to see if it gets auto flagged to make sure that if it goes up on his channel, he doesn't automatically get a strike up there because it's his channel. He spent a lot of time on it and whatnot. Now, I personally know what it feels like to spend a lot of time on a lot of projects and have a backlog of good stuff building up in your YouTube channel to have it annihilated within moments.
Yeah. Or even just like sometimes there are people, they're just, I'll even say it, like there's sometimes kind of jerky people who will just claim your footage even though they don't own it, and then you have to deal with that headache.
Oh, yeah, like copyright trolls?
Yeah, I had that happen with one of my video essays a while back. Like, because I do this video essay series called Voice Actors We Salute You, where I do a copious amounts of research on a voice actor or subject. My most recent one that I had to fight was I did one on Keith Silverstein a while back, and I'm planning to re-upload it eventually when the copyright strike goes away. But the first thing I got was like a copyright claim because they found a podcast interview I used. It was claimed by a studio that did not even own any of the footage whatsoever, and I said that's ridiculous, and we said this is what it is, blah blah blah, it's fair use, and they left it alone. But then another guy came back and said, "Oh, hey, that clip you used of that character from Devilman Crybaby, the character rapping, yeah, no, you can't use that. So we're shutting down that video and we're giving you a strike." I'm like, thanks. All right. So that's something I have to deal with, and that can be obnoxious. It's just, and I hear they're trying to improve it to some extent. I hope it gets improved at some point because I've seen videos from Critical, like where he, like a YouTuber I watch, Moist Critical, where he, or Penguin Zero as he goes by on YouTube, where he tries to, he actually did have a legit talk with YouTube and the people on there and just discuss the issues with it, and they're trying to actually make an effort to improve it. So, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's been a dicey landscape out there on YouTube for a long while now, as far as trying to make transformative works or fair use works with copyrighted material, and it always feels a little bit titchy. You never know for sure if something or someone's going to get you, whether it's a copyright troll, whether it's the automated system, whether it's someone working through a different company marking stuff manually for another company, which is something that I dealt with on my original channel before. It's the Wild West. Sometimes it feels like, and you just got to watch your back however you can. And I'm sorry that you had to deal with that too. That's awful.
Yeah. Speaking of madness and all that, 2020 exists, and as we're recording this, it's happening. Not gonna get into too many details about that, but I remember rewatching the opening of Paranoia Agent and just thinking, this is the national anthem for the year. I just straight up. Oh god. Just looking at that, and it's a show about, that's the thing that's really lovely about a show like Paranoia Agent, is that it's a show about mass hysteria and just people like freaking the fuck out, but it really just sort of incorporates that just chaotic nature and it just, I remember watching a video essay from Super Eye Patch Wolf where he talked about it, and it just, like, the longer it's around, it's actually becomes scarily accurate to how we depict people in social media and stuff like that. You get where I'm coming at?
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you said that. I was watching Paranoia Agent recently. I haven't watched it in so long, And I'm with you 100% on the opening being like a constant theme to this year. Just it's like playing on loop in my head every time I look at the news. But yeah, it is like uncomfortably you could reflective of a lot of stuff that's been going on, especially with a lot of focus being put on social media, with everyone being so cooped up with COVID
Yeah.
and everything. The way that people react to things so harshly, so negatively, so quickly, based on hearsay, how quickly that spreads, how it warps perception of people completely out of their control. Like I think of the episode with the was it, Shotokun, is it the like popular kid at school, and he's just like torn
Yeah.
apart because he matches the description of Little Slugger loosely, and
Yeah.
so everyone just ruins him, and it destroys his personality, starts losing it. It's stuff like that. It sometimes it can feel a little spicy out there on social media.
Yeah.
You can
Straight
feel like
up.
stuff can really spiral.
Ooh. Oh, spirals. Oh. Speaking of spirals, that just I hear that and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Uzumaki is being worked on, and that's gonna be really scary. You know what that is?
Yeah, I've seen. Okay, so I'm a huge coward when it comes to horror and stuff. So I've always known about it, but I never read it because I was like, I was afraid that it would stick with me for too long. So with the anime coming and whatnot, I'm gonna have to watch it. I need to watch it. I wanna
Yeah.
experience it, but I'm scared. I'll be honest. I am.
Yeah. And yeah, and especially when I saw that first teaser, like it has the same. They're bringing in the same composer who did Hereditary, and that dude's
Whoa.
music is haunting, like straight. Like it leaves you. It's that kind of like nerve wracking violin, whatever the hell that instrument is that they play. Like it sounds like it came from hell. Like the way it's just like its soundtrack just like just driving you insane, and it's just it fits something perfectly for the work of Junji Ito, and I'm hoping that he gets his day. Because, not gonna lie, I've seen clips of the Junji Ito collection, the anime, and I'm like, wow, they butchered this manga bad. It's not even scary. It just
I did not hear glowing reviews about that collection either. I'll be honest. I remember seeing clips of it and stuff, and I was always like, "Oh, there was some stuff lost in this translation, wasn't there? It's not quite all there." But again, I hesitate to say too much about it because the only direct contact I've had with Junji Ito is his Cat Diary, which I do own, and it's lovely.
mm,
And he draws some
yeah,
wonderful renditions of his cats.
yeah. The only ones I've seen were I've read The Bully, I've read The Enigma of Amigara Fault, and I've read
Mm.
the Window Next Door. Those are the ones I've read. Yeah.
You
Those are
know,
yeah.
I need to read Amigara Fault. How many times do I need to hear that this hole was made for me before I
Oh.
understand it fully? Yeah, exactly. That's always the reaction. And I'm just like, I don't. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, another actor, Casey Mangelo, tweeted an image. Like I happened to forget about that last page, and then Casey Mangelo just retweets a meme image of a DDR meme with that final page, and I'm like, Casey, I just forgot that, and just like that, and now it's in my dreams again. Thanks for that.
See, this is
Thanks.
what I'm talking about. This is what I'm afraid of with the new anime that's coming. It's gonna be in my dreams, man.
I don't really mean that, Casey. You're my dear friend, and I love you dearly. Don't worry. That's an insult toward you. But anyway, uh, so with us being cooped up in all that through this year, and hopefully, as things ease down, but we've had a lot of time to reflect and just discover new things, discover new hobbies, and all that, and also just discover new kinds of shows that we weren't into. Like one thing that I was getting into, I was watching show. I finally took the time to watch recently. Uh, Keep Your Hands Off Azoken and Great Pretender and stuff like that. But I also ran into other shows and movies that I hadn't seen before. So could you tell us like just what kind of like obscure media that you would recommend people check out before the year's over?
Obscure media for people to check out. Oh man, I feel pretty detached sometimes from what's obscure to some people and what's not to other people. I saw earlier this year there was I can't remember their name now, but there's like a rapper who I was following who said like, yeah, I've been checking out this little known anime called Cowboy Bebop, and I was like, little known anime? What are you? Yeah, man, I just got into this new thing called Full Metal Alchemist. You never heard of it? Like, come on, come on.
Bro, I just heard of this crazy it's not very well known, but I think it's called Death Note. You know?
It's crazy, man. He's got this notebook. Have you watched it on Netflix? It's a great movie. And you're, oh man. But let me think. I think I got one. I don't know how many people will have read it. I think it's, I don't know how popular it even is. But one thing that I've read that I don't know too many people who've read it is Oyasumi Pun Pun. Have you read that?
No, I haven't heard of it. What is it?
Oh yes. Okay. It's a manga about this. He's kind of a dejected loner in Japan, like a teenager who's evolving into adulthood, and he's grappling with all these really grounded, relatable issues for a lot of people. He's dealing with like difficulties with his parents and with his uncle. He's dealing with trying to find a job, with love, but it dives deep and heavy into the mind of someone suffering from very hardcore depression and low self-esteem, very, very heavily. And you really get into the mind of this character with their struggles with they kind of go on their own kind of spiral through misperceptions of other people and what they're saying, or through struggling relationships with friends, and as their family kind of crumbles due to different issues and health problems. I think the most recognizable thing about it probably is he starts interacting with a imaginary representation of God that he sees. It's like a hyper realistic guy's face that pokes up over windows and around corners, acting like an anti-conscience. Basically, it's just beating him down for different decisions or things that are going on in his life, and he battles with it back and forth. And it's a fantastic manga. It's long. It's lengthy, but it's over. It has a definitive end. There's a wonderful the character goes through so many changes, so many arcs. There's wonderful side chapters exploring other characters within and around Pun Pun. He's often depicted as as being I want to say a bird. He's he's got a little beak. He's just a little oblong white bird character, or he's depicted as having a human body but with the bird head, and that's the way like he sees himself, as this insignificant kind of character. It's stellar, but it's brutal. It's like, it reminds me sometimes of maybe Perfect Blue, and the way that
Right.
dealt with like the split images of like the self and the self that you project out to the public, like a public persona and stuff like that. It's kind of in that way where it dives into these introspective topics and mentalities, but it's brutal, and you need a strong constitution to make it through to the end, but it's worth it. It's really thought-provoking. It's a fantastic manga with amazing art, great writing, great characters. I would highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a really good long-form kind of grounded manga to read. Just be ready to be depressed for a minute, probably, but it's worth it.
And would you say the name of this manga was called?
Oyasumi Pun Pun, or Good Night Pun Pun.
Or Good Night Pun Pun.
Yes, it's fantastic, but it's a ride. It's a real ride,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah. There was speaking of manga, there was another one that I've been like one that breaks you on a different kind of level. Like, well, there's one was a psychological horror, and the other was just a straight up horror action series. I'll get into the horror action one just because that's a bit lighter. It's this manga called Chainsaw Man, and it's basically just it's ending actually very soon, like later this Sunday, with its final chapter. And basically, to summarize, it's this dude named Denji who worked as a job as a demon devil hunter or whatever to barely make ends meet and just barely has anything. Doesn't really have. He just wants to live a pretty good life, meet a girl or whatever, and all that stuff. And he has this like demon dog thing with a chainsaw for a nose, and then a bunch of zombies. The Yakuza screw him over, and then he gets eaten by a bunch of zombies and all that stuff. But then, in a sudden twist of fate, he fuses with his dog, his demon dog, with the chainsaw, Pochita, and then he becomes a chainsaw man with the power of chainsaws. And then he just like straight up like in Devilman or whatever, he just starts mowing down zombies and shit. And then the story basically becomes like him just trying to like find like a pretty good life, and just his first big motivation in the show is, and I shit you not, to touch some boobs. That's his big motivation. And
the Master Roshi motivation, of course.
Yeah. But here's the twist, though. When he gets that, he eventually does get that opportunity to do it, and when he does, he feels empty, and it's like this emotional crisis. Like it's just like I got this, but why do I feel nothing? And then he learns like the value of getting to know a woman through different steps of touch. Like first you get to know their hands and then their shoulders. You get to know their heart and like little stupid cheesy stuff like that. But it's over the top, it's crazy, it's gory, and it's getting an anime, which has me fucking excited, and I can't wait to see it when it happens.
I'm glad you brought it up. I might have to dive in there and start reading it. I've been seeing people talk about Chainsaw Man like all year. I didn't even know it was getting an anime. That's dope. I've been seeing the design for so long, and I was like, is this a joke or is this real? Because it looks sick, but I don't know if it's like Inferno Cop, where it's like a comedy thing, or if it's like I don't know how serious to take it. But you make it sound like it's got a lot of good drama balance between this. Like it kind of sounds like it's zany setting, but it sounds like it's taking itself seriously. I'm not sure.
It does have comedy in it. Like there's one of the funniest bits is that there's this character named Power, who is my favorite character. She's like this demon girl, this fiend or whatever, and she has like there's this joke where like they're living together in the same apartment with this other dude named Aki, and like there's this one panel where she's like, I seldom flushing after I take a dump. Flush it. It stinks. I seldom taking a shower after this time of day. Go wash up. You stink. It's just good shit like that. Great comics like that. I love it. Great. And the other manga that I read that is just a straight up psychological horror drama is this one called Chino Wadachi, or as it's known in English, Blood on the Tracks. And the most I can say about it without spoiling what happens, it's that basically the mother is horrible to her child, and that's all I can say. It was something I read during Halloween because I was in the mood for something spooky. It's not a supernatural thing, but it's just strictly a story about the effects of child abuse, and like both physical and emotional, and how that can affect someone's life for the worse and stuff like that. And I definitely say like I'm definitely giving a trigger warning to anyone who is sensitive to the harm, like child abuse or just someone harming their own child, because it's not a very easy thing to watch or read, but it is definitely a very good read if you like going into just like psychological horrors and stuff like that.
Ooh, I got to put this on the list. And also, you remind me, I want to also put out a trigger warning for people who, if anyone decides to check out Oyasumi Pun Pun as well, it does also get into issues of abuse and self-harm and things like that too. So just like, no joke, heavy stuff. Just the heads up.
Yeah. But let me see here. So moving on from the dark and depressing shit. Zach Hadel and Martin Liss, both of those dudes are like I haven't met Zach, but I've met Martin a few times, and he's one of the funniest dudes I know. And I know that like you've both collaborated with both of them in some sort of aspect. Like with Martin, it was through his passion project for F-Zero, and
man.
with Zach, it was from what I know, like you've done narration for his
Schmucks.
Smugs podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
Smugs, something like that. So how would you, in regards to like how they run stuff, how would you describe their work ethic, and what do you take away personally from like contributing to their projects?
Dude. All right. So they're both fantastic, super driven and passionate guys, just straight off the bat. Like just inspiring on a base level to work with them because they're so passionate. I would shout out for Martin here real quick too, because the F-Zero project, he talking with him about it, him reaching out to me about it to contribute to Goro and stuff. It was fun. He was always quick to go back and forth with me on ideas and to get the right rendition for the character down. He shared so much stuff with me about the production and about the people involved and showing me the clips as it was in progress, criticism. He's awesome, and it was a super fun back and forth. Even though I played a small part there, but he kept me involved and a part of the whole production. It's super inspiring. The guy's super driven. He was working on this thing for so long, and it's the willingness to like put yourself out there, whether you're not sure if it'll work or not. Like speaking as someone who, again, like I did my fan dubs that I worked on like way back when were the Kill la Kill dub fan dubs I did before the official dub was announced or out or anything. I watched Kill la Kill. I was like, this is super cool. I love this show. Love Trigger, but there's nothing out for it. And there was so much work. It was tough. It was like learning how to edit and put things together like that was so difficult. To see Martin like gathering all this incredible talent, gathering musicians, gathering voiceover artists, gathering illustrators to create that fantastic thumbnail. Like every part of it was so painstakingly and deliberately crafted, refined, honed to create an amazing final product. Like it just talking with him, contributing to that. It's something that like it like lights a fire in you. It's like seeing someone so passionate put something out like that with so much love. It makes you just gets you all juiced up. You're like, look at this amazing stuff someone can make. I should do that. I can do that. If I can contribute to this, maybe I can build something up like that too. And with Zach, it's like that too, where like it's like I've been a big fan of Zach's for forever since like Newgrounds and whatnot. And being able to like contribute voiceover for his podcast, which is just it's hilarious. I love listening to Sleepy Cast, and it's another one of those things where it's like just being able to talk with another like talented, passionate artist like that who's just so casual, so open with the back and forth with feedback. All I can say is like it really does. I feel like I'm a character in Gurren Lagann or something, where like Kamina just walked in the room and hyped everyone up, and you're just like, yeah, we can do this, yeah. It's awesome. It's peak inspiration and motivation.
Yeah. Speaking of which, like whenever I talked with Martin on occasion, like when the way he described like your voice range, he said it was somewhat similar to Clancy Brown and Register, and I'm like, I totally agree. I could totally see you just like just going for the the Lex Luthor, or maybe I don't know, a Mr. Krabs type of character.
Stop it. I would, dude. That's super flattering because I love Clancy Brown. I love him so much. I wish. That's just that comparison. You're making me blush over here. You're making me blush. It's like that's like I wish I could like. I want to like it's like him and like Steve Bloom and like guys with like the deeper or gruff registers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like those. They're my biggest number one inspirations. So that means a lot, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Some of those dudes are pretty nice. Like I've met Steve Bloom in person because there is a thing that happens over in my hometown where like a combat radio Christmas thing where they help out homeless children and stuff. Can't do that this year because the world is still on fire, but literally in California though. But anyway, yeah, they had other voice actors for this charity event, and yeah, they were just there to help out the kids and stuff. You ask for autographs and stuff, and they're pretty chill about it. Like like Steve Bloom is a pretty swell dude and all that stuff. Same with Fred Tatasciore, who was over there. I saw Charlie Adler for like a few seconds and all that, and yeah, it was a nice time. The actors are pretty nice, and rightfully so, because we're a community. We got to stick together, especially during these times of upgrading our home setups and all that. Like,
Oh yeah.
how's that worked out for you?
Oh man, let me tell you, there's no better motivation for beefing up your home setup than not going outside because it's not safe. Especially, I'm sure, over there where things are literally on fire for ages upon ages. But yeah, it's been it's the kind of thing where it's like you got to find inspiration through adversity, and I think it's never due to the nature of the world with this virus and stuff right now, it's never been a better time probably to capitalize on beefing up the home setup and really refining it, studying up on what to do and getting yourself in a good position to work remotely, because working remotely is now the safe go-to for so many people and projects. So it's it's awful to look out your window or look at the news. It's not good.
Yeah.
But it is a good driving factor for like it turning back inwards and looking at what you can actually refine to make yourself a better creator from wherever you are with whatever your means.
Right. And even with this whole thing, like I've even seen conversations like it has opened up opportunities for some studios to like work with broader talent outside of states, because like there's this whole thing, this unspoken rule of, oh, if you're not here you can't work, like,
Yeah.
but now it's kind of opened up that opportunity. But it also like having a mixture of both. It's sort of like with how people talk about like the theater and streaming argument and stuff like that. Having a combination of both, having that option actually does help a lot, because you can't, like, one of my voice acting peers, Marissa Lenti, said that you can't. I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I can't remember the tweet exactly, but they said something around the lines of you can't go all in on remote recording, because then new talent kind of gets screwed over because they have to spend a shit ton of money to upgrade their setup, and that kind of leaves them out unfairly. But also it is, however, having a mixture of both these things, like, it offers more opportunities, and it's a good failsafe in case, like, say for instance, if you want to work on blah 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 for a Texas company or whatever, but you live in LA, you can still do that from home, and you don't have to shell out a ton of money just to get plane tickets just to record guy number 5.
Yeah.
And but it's good to have that option, like, say, but if you do get a big dude on blah blah blah, you can go over there. You can go over there for that option if you want to, but it just got to be worth. Is it worth the paycheck? Yes or no? But even then, having that home setup will save your ass in a lot of cases. But then again, there's also the whole thing, like I mentioned before we started this, how recording can just drop in and out because of your internet connection, which honestly really isn't your fault and is really just in charge of your internet provider. And a lot of times, especially like some companies like to throttle, so there's something they got to keep in mind, that stuff like that is out of your control. So it's just, and really, the most, like, if you have to like record something, like, once it's like safe to do so, if you ever have the option, it's probably better that if it's local to you, just go to the studio. If you
Hmm.
can, just because all it does is just cost you gas. Right now, don't do that because pandemic is still happening, but if it's safe to do so, when it's safe to do so, it probably is better that you just do it locally at a studio.
Yeah,
But,
I agree with that. I think ideally, if you have the option available to you with a local studio or whatnot, local company willing to work with you in that way, you definitely want to go and work with the the best professional tier equipment, other professionals who can help guide you, direct you, and help you get the best performance and deliver the best work that you can. But yeah, it really is a double-edged sword, like you're saying, where people being more open to remote work now is definitely, it creates a lot more opportunities for people who don't have access to that kind of thing, who aren't around bases of voiceover around, like, in Texas or California or wherever they would be closest to getting proper in studio work like that. But at the same time, it's like absolutely, like you said, your internet service provider could be an obstacle. You could struggle with learning how to set up a proper home recording area. Getting the equipment is a
Yeah.
massive, massive obstacle for a lot of people because stuff is so expensive to get decent equipment, a decent interface,
Yeah.
like prepping and proofing an area for recording. It's tough. It's tough either way you cut it. But I do think the silver lining is just people being more willing to uh, um, to look at multiple options and opportunities like that, being more willing to take on remote work, assuming that the people can get it up to to that certain level of quality, so that there's not too much disparity, because that can make it tough too for people working with studios and whatnot when they take on remote work. Is if the other person or the talent on hand doesn't have things up to the same bar, you don't want a disparity in quality with your production. It's tough. It's real tough. But ultimately, I am glad that it's caused more people to look at remote as an option, and hopefully, people able to make it work can seize the opportunity. Hopefully, it helps more than it hurts, even though it hurts pretty bad right now with this COVID, just making everything complicated.
Yeah, indeed. So, like, and speaking of while we're still on the topic of voiceover, one thing that's been kind of topic that's been floating around my head recently was like just knowing like all the legendary talent that we've had in the business, like, and I love getting to know them. I love researching them, and I've always been very fascinated by the topic of voiceover itself. I even bought like an audiobook from Rob Paulson recently called Talking Voices,
Yeah.
because I wanted to just get to know more about his story and all that stuff. But and when it comes to there are people, there are characters out there like you've got characters that have been portrayed differently through the years, like Optimus Prime or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like every voice actor has had their own interpretation on these characters. But then you've also got more iconic characters who keep a more consistent sound, like Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny. And I wonder, when is a character open for interpretation, and when does a character's integrity come first? Like, because one thing I've known is that Bugs Bunny will always sound like Mel Blanc. There's never going to be a different sounding Bugs. It's always going to be Mel Blanc doing that. And someone doing Mickey Mouse is either going to do Walt Disney or Wayne Allwine. There's no difference to that. But with Optimus, I've heard different takes on different, like some people do a Peter impression, but then other people, I've heard people do David Cage. David Cage basically did his own thing. And then you have who else was there? And then for the Ninja Turtles, like Ninja Turtles have been interpreted in crazy amount of ways because of their different artists and stuff. So what's your take on that?
I think when it comes to it's tough, because when it comes to like legacy roles like that with really big characters that persist through various forms of media and things like that, there can be a point where, or also like say the Joker with Mark Hamill, where an actor comes along and like slams it and just fits the character like a glove and defines that character for like a generation. And it's tough for people coming after that maybe to try and like shake that perception where it becomes so entwined, just like Mel Blanc with Bugs Bunny and things like that. I think it's tough. It's tough because I think you should always try to come to a role and bring something original to it. You should always break it down to what the core of the character is and how you can interpret that in an interesting way, not just for your performance and to make it interesting for the talent, but also to make sure that you don't end up falling into maybe regurgitating or trying to impersonate another role. Like I want to say like talking about the Joker, like Mark Hamill really crushed it with Batman the Animated Series, but there's still so many other actors who came after that tried to bring interesting and new fresh takes on the character, like John DiMaggio or like Kevin Michael Richardson. You should always try your best to bring that new interpretation, but when it comes to like it's the kind of thing where I mainly see it with legacy characters, where it's just when their character once it's defined a certain way, if it I guess it kind of comes back to how you're being directed for it too. Like if there's a certain look, a certain appeal to a character, a certain thing. Like Mickey Mouse has a certain sound to him that's just been consistent all the way throughout his entire existence. Then then there's a point where people just go, oh, well, that's just how Mickey Mouse sounds. If there's a new guy playing Mickey Mouse, he's got to sound like Mickey Mouse. If you've got Goofy with Bill Farmer, if there's someone else who wants to try Goofy, people are going to expect like they're going to expect the specific Goofy voice. It's
Yeah.
It's a fine line to tread, and I think you get more freedom definitely with characters that don't have that kind of long, like lasting legacy, that they've been around for a long time and with a long franchise. And it sort of has to be something that you kind of have to, you got to break it down to the core of the character to try and make it your own. So it's something you see also with Batman, a lot of interpretations of Batman, where it's every single one can be really varied and really different depending on who's doing it. But
Yeah.
you also inevitably find a lot of people who are like, oh, Conroy, that's Batman. I think of Batman, I think of Kevin Conroy. So it's a fine line. I think it's a fine line that you got to take on a character to character basis, but ultimately you should always be trying to hopefully bring something new, something unique, find an aspect of the character that speaks to you to help you bring out your own performance, and hopefully not emulate too much based on the legacy of it, unless you're directed to do that. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that, like, comic characters, like you said before, offer a lot of leeway just because they start in print, and a lot of times you just imagine the voice from reading it, so it could be interpreted in different ways. But then you get characters like I can think of another situation where it's gone totally weird, where, like, say Scoob, for example, where a lot of, like, they kept Frank Welker as Scooby, and everyone else though is basically different. You got other people who are just doing really not good impressions of the characters, or just doing their own thing, and it just doesn't fit their character. It's just like they had Captain Caveman, and it's like, oh, spoilers, who cares? Like, they had Captain Caveman in the movie, and it's just Tracy Morgan doing Tracy Morgan's voice, and I'm like, I like Tracy Morgan, but that's not how Captain Caveman talks. He's like, he's like, unga munga, like stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm this guy's for real though, for real though. It doesn't do that. That's not Captain Caveman.
Yeah, that's something too where I agree with you. Where that's another thing where you got to look back at the core of the character. You got to take you got to. I'm not saying that there's a disrespect for the character, but there could be a prioritization of like a bigger personality or talent, and having them come through as the character for that recognizability. But it can stomp on the original character, the character's voice, the character's characterization can kind of be lost within. Look, it's Tracy Morgan or what have you, and like you said with Scoob too, sometimes you end up with, rather than having people come in and do their own interpretation or something, you get what comes off as weird impressions. And I think that's like the bad side of the, like, sticking too hard to that legacy sound, that voice, that people recognize that voice. So you got to do that voice. You got to let whoever you cast in the role, if you're not bringing back the talent that helped define it, then give them some leeway. Let them have some freedom of interpretation, because it'll only help the performance if they don't feel restrained to, well, I gotta emulate Casey Kasem as best I can. You got to be able to do your own thing a little bit, or else it'll just hurt. It'll hurt, and you'll hear the struggle for the performance. It just won't come off as well.
Yeah, exactly. And even going back to Ninja Turtles, like, I remember in the 2012 cartoon, they explained, like, how they explained the voice change. Like, at one point, Leonardo had 3 voice changes in that show. There was the original dude from American Pie. I can't remember his name, but and then he couldn't do it anymore. And then they had a voice sound alike, and then he couldn't do it anymore. So they just said, all right, we need to find a way to make this work. So they had an episode, like, there was an episode at one point where Leo gets the shit kicked out of him so badly, and it was just like an ultimate loss where, like, the characters had to, like, leave town because the Krang were taking over and all that shit. So so their explanation was, so when Seth Green stepped in, their explanation was, oh, his throat got beaten so bad that it's morphed his voice. And I'm like, all right. And then people got used to hearing Seth Green, and then people liked that interpretation pretty well. So there's that. So like you said before, it really is just like honoring the because he does honor the character very well, and he knows how to. Because it's like if you've seen Robot Chicken, he's like this dude is like a hardcore nerd for stuff like this, so he knows what he's getting himself into. So
Oh, of course, and also his versatility is like second to none. The man can do so much. He's like he can do anything. He'll take a crack at anything, and I don't think I've ever heard Seth Green in a role where it's like where it felt like it was just like an impersonate, just a weak impersonation or something like that. He's always throwing something else on top, having fun with it. It's you know I love the man.
yeah, I know that on your on your Twitter and stuff like that, you mentioned like being a director and writer, and a lot of those kinds of people are often storytellers in their own right. So I wonder, like, if given the opportunity, like, what kind of story would you want to tell yourself? What kind of medium would you want to do it in, and what kind of message would you want to send with it?
Oh man, I love you right now. So throughout while I was going to college, I was learning explicitly to direct for film and television because I've always been a huge film buff. I love the magic of the cinema. I adore it. I'm totally 100% in love with movie magic. And I would always, if I could ever get the chance, I want to work my way up with the gathering experience and talent to work on my own production, my own film. That would definitely be my number one. And I think the core of anything, because I've worked on scripts, I've got stuff that I've been writing, of course, who doesn't, for years and years. But the core of it is always going to be, if anything, if I ever make anything, direct anything, write anything, it's going to come back to a hopeful, optimistic kind of outlook. I want something that ultimately at the end of the story, the day, the journey, it's something that can help, kind of like when I'm working with Zach or Martin, where it's like I want something that can help inspire people. It can help touch people from different walks of life, help people relate to different stories, different characters in different places, but ultimately have something that inspires people to keep building on themselves and building upwards to be better, do better, help others around them. It's very corny sounding, but that's because I'm a big Superman and Captain Marvel / Shazam fan. I'm really all about that Boy Scout mentality of like I just want
Yeah,
to make things better, man. I just want to
I
help
agree.
improve people's moods, mindsets, outlooks, perspectives. I want to do something constructive. And even if I want to work on something that would be like horror, something with a darker mood or atmosphere or theme to it, ultimately it would be inescapable. I want to come back around to helping people find a silver lining. Especially, I think that's only been reinforced with, we keep bringing it up, it's inescapable with this rough year. Things have been real rough, but it just makes me feel more in tune with what with that messaging of just I just want to help people see the good because it's so easy for things to fall into hard times, into the negative, to see all the things going wrong. But it's even harder, I think, to look at ways to dig your way out of that, to build on top of that, to pay attention to how it went wrong and why and what broke this person or hurt that person or how to help. And so I want it to always come back to hope. Shout out to Superman. I love you, big boy. Mwah. Always come back to
Yeah,
hope.
yeah. It's fun. It's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's great that like yeah, I appreciate that you're a fan of the Boy Scout. Just because I hear so often people go like, oh, like like Big Blue's overpowered. I'm like, shut your mouth. He's a precious man, and I will defend him.
Oh yeah,
Also,
I used to work in a comic shop for a bunch of years, so I got real deep into my Captain Marvel and my Superman. And one thing that would always come up inevitably with people is Superman's boring. Superman's super dull. He's got all these big, strong powers, and who cares? He can't be hurt by anything. What makes him so interesting? It's like, it's the humanity of the guy underneath all that stuff. Like, it's about him learning to empathize, connect, and help people in spite of this absurd image of the Superman. Like, uh, look, just go read Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Go check that comic out. There was a good run of Thor as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head. That was really really good. It was right before um uh, who was it? Thor's girlfriend. She had gotten cancer, and then she ended up getting the hammer. And
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster. It was right before that. It was like Thor number 17 or something like that. There was an issue of just Thor. He goes to talk with Jane Foster about her struggle with cancer, about his frustration with being unable to help her to just magic away this disease, about how she can seem so strong in spite of that disease. And he goes around connecting with all kinds of different people on different levels and walks of life with different struggles that they have. And it's the same thing as Superman when he's going around Metropolis or going around to different communities, trying to just understand people, touch base with people, bring himself to the same level as other people and understand their perspective. The importance of looking past someone's strengths or weaknesses and knowing the person, knowing their reality and what they have to face, and seeing things from their shoes. It's invaluable. It's utterly invaluable.
Yeah. As we reach the end to this, I have one last question. I ask this to every one of my guests, and it's this: whether in your creative life or your personal life, what was the most difficult thing you've gone through, and how'd you overcome it?
Okay, so I think my answer to this is definitely a mix of the two, because my most difficult creative and real life struggle was definitely trying to put myself through college and force myself through that, despite parents with failing health, low income, like difficulties with transportation, all manner of troubles, you name it. It's just every problem you could think of was just happening and falling on my head. But it's like I learned a lot through the experience, especially making it out the other side and figuring out how to subsist on my own. It was learning how to find the confidence to create, the confidence to collaborate with other people who also want to create, who have strong, passionate visions and drives, finding ways to empathize with those people, see things the way they see things, or get your ideas on the same page, how to bring together productions, how to overcome various obstacles, how to communicate with different people. There's so many different aspects of my life that all came together and had to be honed and refined through the lens of basically higher learning. Basically, something that no one else in my family had been able to do at all. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. So that was something that really helped me to understand where I wanted to be in the world. It helped me to understand what I wanted to learn, what I wanted my craft to be, understand my limitations, but also how to recognize those limitations and then take steps towards building and working past those, or finding ways to work around those, or just become better. Finding ways to look outside of myself at what are the things that are within my control, what are things that are out of my control, and what can I do to mitigate the difference. And all that stuff has benefited me tremendously through like putting myself in the hot spot to learn new perspectives. Like I label myself as a director because I did a lot of directing for short films, for televised programs, for Kutztown, for sports productions, sports broadcasts. Like I didn't even know the rules of basketball at first, and then I went from that to directing broadcasts for national basketball championships, like huge. And that's the kind of stuff that I couldn't have done without being willing to step outside of myself and really break things down and then learn how to build them back up. And that was definitely going through college and then coming out the other side and learning how to establish myself as an independent adult, but also as a creative force, something that I've always wanted to be, and something that I see so much in others, in you, I see in Martin, I see in Zach, I see in countless people. I can't believe how lucky I've been to interact with so many wonderful, creative, talented people. But it's all built on the back of the things that I've learned, and it was all basically, it all came to a crux by pushing myself through college and getting out of there and succeeding through that. So that was definitely, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But if without that, I wouldn't be able to have the confidence to work on scripts. I wouldn't be able to have the confidence to continue pushing for voiceover and having fun with it and letting myself feel comfortable doing it. For the longest time, I couldn't even listen to my own voice without like curling up into a ball and rolling into a corner.
That's how it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was probably that.
All right. Yeah, and that totally makes sense. Yeah, like even I can bet a lot of people can definitely relate to that. Just like when you go through a struggle like that, like just like I can't really speak the same from experience just because I went through high school and I went through that. But
Hmm.
like I was a I most I did was community college, but I had a very direct view of my path and career. So I just decided to just go for voice acting, and it's and so I did in a sense, yeah, I did kind of become a dropout, but I did like try to learn from other places. Like I tried to find alternatives and stuff like that, and yeah, I feel like and as every actor I've heard from has told me, every path is valid. So yeah, I definitely agree with you
Absolutely.
there.
Every path is totally valid. And I think dropout is always used with such a negative connotation, but it's like, I mean, come on, man. Look at you. You're awesome. You're a great talent. You're taking yourself places. I mean, you have a fantastic voice. You're a great actor. Like it doesn't matter ultimately the path that you take as long as if you keep building, if you keep pursuing that progression of getting yourself towards where you want to be. And you're doing that. I've been struggling to do that, like, but everyone does. And as long as you stick with that, if you have that focus, if you have that drive, however you find it, you'll be able to push and find those paths.
Yeah. But yeah, is there anything? Okay, so before we close out, is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to tell people where they can find you and all that stuff?
Yeah, so you can find me at datgraymind at Twitter. You can email me also at datgraymind@gmail.com or gkaterman@gmail.com. Uh, you can find my YouTube channel, although admittedly I've been doing so much work for other people. There ain't too much on my YouTube channel right now. But I'm hoping to produce some more independent stuff. Hopefully, maybe I'll put up some old stuff that I worked on, like some of those fan dubs for people to check out. Martin inspired me to try and maybe put some of my older stuff up as well, just to see the journey and the passion projects that people could and should pursue and do, because it helps you learn so much, it helps you do so much. So yeah, check me out on Twitter, hit up my emails, check me out on YouTube, and yeah, you know where to find me, people. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for our show. Thank you for listening, and remember to wear your strangeness and nerdy heart with pride. Take care.